cities that are resilient, inclusive, and capable of thriving in a changing world. Good Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed faculty, workers, and of tomorrow. Half of the School of Human Settlements, I, Urdu Puranik, extend a magnificent welcome to all of you to Vyuham 4.0, the urban conclave curated by the Career Advisory Services of Exan University. The School of Human Settlements, SHS, established in 2016, launched an innovative MBA program in urban management and governance, the first of its kind in India. This program equips students to tackle sustainable urbanization challenges with a focus on resilient, inclusive urban development. Our alumni excel in across consulting, government, think tanks, and research organizations. Through interdisciplinary learning and hands on engagement, SHS bridges the gap between academic knowledge and real challenges. The program fosters future urban leaders who can shape innovative policies, strengthen governance, and create more sustainable and livable cities. To support these efforts, we host the annual Urban Conclave, a gathering of industry leaders to exchange knowledge and strategies for addressing today's urban challenges. Organized by the School of Human Settlements Career Advisory Services, Vyuham centers on the theme Marching Cities of Tomorrow: Leadership, Innovation, and Climate Resilience. We are honored to have distinguished industry leaders joining us to share their valuable perspectives, starting with Mr. Anil Kulkarni, Technical Director, ESG KPMG, Mr. Alok Vijayvargiya, Chief Sustainability Officer, Hinduja Group, Mr. Soma Sekhar, Associate Director, PwC, Ms. Akanksha Upadhyay, Head, Carbon Market Partnerships and Alliances, Mr. Debabrata Patra, Associate Director and Action Aid, Khija, founder, One Next Wednesdays. Mr. Chintan Singh Suratia, Head, CSR Advisory, SGS. Mr. Kishore Nathani, Managing Director, Mr. Karan Gupta, Director and Property Consultants. To start the event, I now request Pro Vice Chancellor, Exam University, Professor Subhajyoti Ray, the Dean of the School of Human Settlements, Professor Kajri Mishra, Associate Dean, Career Advisory Services, Professor Francis Thomas Castellini, Career Advisory Services, Faculty, School of Human Settlements, Professor Student Coordinator, Career Advisory Services, Ms. Prabhu Khan, and esteemed speakers, Mr. Anand Kulkarni, Mr. Somasekhar, Ms. Akanksha Upadhyay, Dr. Ruby Khija, Mr. Kishore Nathani, Mr. Karan Gupta to come on the stage and light the diya. I request everyone to kindly rise for the prayer. I would request our esteemed Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor Subhajyoti Ray, as Dean, Dr. Kajri Mishra, and Career Advisory Services Dean, Professor Francis Thomas Castellano, sir, to please come on the stage. I esteemed Chancellor, Professor Subhajyoti Ray, to kindly address the gathering and share his thoughts with us. Over to you, sir.
Dean of the school, Professor Kajri Mishra, Professor Francis, invited delegates, faculty colleagues from the school, and my dear students, and team members of the CAS committee from the other campus. A very warm welcome to the Vyuham. So it's a little bit of tongue twister for me. So anyway, welcome to Vyuham. I think the topic is obviously that is some touches each one of our lives on a day-to-day basis. Everyone, I've lived in NCR for quite some time, and I know every day we complain about pollution, we complain about traffic, we complain about flooding from just a little bit of rain. In the homes in northern part of India, there'll be at least two electronic equipments always running, AC and an air purifier or a heater and an air purifier. That is what has become the quality of life in the capital region of the country. We are far more blessed in this part of the country. We still get fairly clean air to breathe. But our population is exploding. Some people say that we have reached a growth rate which is below replacement rate. So probably there would be a decline 2050 onwards or 45 onwards. People estimate it differently. But till then, there's a lot of young people and even us, we are not so old also. We have to live. We have to have a good quality of life. And I think I would really school that this is something that no one talks about in popular press. In popular press, we hear about other things, like branding, marketing, the big things, the glamorous thing. But this is where real work rests, where work has to be done. This is where energy, intellect, resources have to flow in. Because this is multi-stakeholder engagement that one can ever happen. I mean, right from the airport to the campus, you will see it's not just about roads, it's climate, population density, or anything else. It's also cattle. If you're on the road. So I mean, this you can't do more multi-stakeholder than this. This is such an important thing. I congratulate the school to take up this challenge. And today's a mighty busy day, but I would have loved to hear some of you. But thank you again for coming, all the delegates, and I'm sure the students will benefit. I think listen deeply, ask good questions of the panelists, because this is where you get real experience, real insights about what challenges they face in making our cities and urban habitat areas better. Of course, you cannot deny that there is going to be a very significant role of AI in this. I mean, technology will play a role. I mean, if it will be foolish to say that we can do it without AI, it's not. We don't have to take that stance, and I think we will certainly have a big role, and maybe create some sort of a sandbox environment where you try it out and then take it to the real situation. So these few words. Thank you very much, Kajri and faculty colleagues, and especially all the delegates. I wish you a great day of learning and exchange of ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening us. I would now like to request Career Advisory Services Associate Dean, Professor Francis Thomas Castellano, sir, to please come on the stage.
Good morning to each and every one of you. I will start by first welcoming the delegates, the people who have come to attend to gain knowledge, because you are the future of our country. And you are the people who are going to be looking at these very seriously, whether it be climate change, whether it be sustainability. Students, each and every one of you, please use this opportunity well in order to learn and make policies which matter to each and every one of us in the future. I welcome all the speakers. Many of you have come from far and wide in order to be with us. I do hope you have a good day today, and more importantly, your deliberations, what your experience brings to the table, will be invaluable to the students. As Professor Subhajyoti said already, whatever you all have to offer our students will make a difference in the future. And I'm sure that whatever questions and other things that they ask, full as well. When it comes to what Professor said about technology, technology is but a tool. It needs to be directed at the right place, at the right problems. And it is deliberations like this which will enable us to be able to direct technology towards solving real life problems. AI and other technologies are available, yes, but if used correctly, we can expect to get the outcomes that we desire. So, with this, once again, welcome to the delegates, to the students, and to all the speakers. Thank you for accepting our invitation and being with us. We have a wonderful slew of speakers from all different domains, and I'm sure the deliberations will be really meaningful. I will also be looking forward to joining in for some of these sessions a little later today. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your valuable thoughts, sir. It is now a pleasure to extend a warm welcome to Professor Dr. Kajri Mishra, the respected Dean of the School of Human Settlements, who will share her opening remarks and formally welcome everyone to the event. Over to you.
Thank you, Udvi. Actually, this is a co-hosted event. Not only the university, of course, but the University Career Advisory Services, of which led by Professor Francis, and the School of Human Settlements. So all of us are hosts in some sense. So welcome again to not only the students here, but more importantly, the guests, the speakers who have taken valuable time from their busy practicing work to actually come here and share their experience and thoughts about this domain with our students. I'm sure most of you probably have never thought, what is this human settlement school about? Maybe the term itself is new to some of them, some of you. And particularly the concept of a MBA so new. I'm sure we all talk of urban management on a daily basis. Oh, the city is not planned well. The city is not managed well. But the people we turn to are urban planners. We say the planners are not doing their job. But we don't stop to think that it's not about planning only that's necessary, but somebody to put the plan into action. Who is going to be looking after the implementation of all of this? And in this country, we think our generalists, our government officers, bureaucrats, and other people, and engineers who deal with urban systems are the ones who should deal with this. What we forget is that cities are one of the most complex creations of human beings. Its complexity scientists tell us that it is at the pinnacle of complexity as far as they understand. It is an ecosystem of ecosystems. And as Professor Subhajyoti very well put it, it probably has the widest range of stakeholders and therefore the widest possibility of both conflict and as well as the opportunity to work together to change our cities. The other thing that is less talked about is how cities are related to sustainability. All of us are facing the brunt of climate change. All of us are talking about sustainability. The man on the street, the person on the street is also knows the word now. It's bandied about so commonly. But what exactly goes to making our world sustainable, about changing the ways that we have in order to actually move towards sustainability, as opposed to doing things business as usual, doing business as usual, so that as we have been doing for the last 200 years. The entire industrial revolution and thereafter the directions we have been going, despite the warnings about limits to growth, has brought us to this pass. And again, scientists tell us, the IPCC tells us that we are already at the tipping point in many systems. But what most people don't think about is that who's to blame? And I really use the word with emphasis. It is the cities. Cities are responsible. Cities, the way we have, of course, created them, are responsible for 70% of the sustainability issues in this world. One part of it, we blame industry, we blame other kinds of things, but transportation is the largest polluter, not the industries. And similarly, I can go on, but our guests up on the dais have other events to inaugurate, and therefore one doesn't want to go into all detail. But the second point that I'm trying to make is that this is one aspect which nobody pays attention to. And given its complexity, that requires ever more sophisticated technical professional insights. And here is where AI can help us, but only up to an extent. Because the complex and wicked problems that cities characterize are full of holders with different. So I come to the third part. Why an MBA? MBA is typically for business, right? It's business management or business administration. But unfortunately, in this country, the only way we understand management is by giving it a label called MBA. But management as a field has wider application. It can be applied to everything from to the state, which typically is called public administration, and of course the corporates. It has flourished best. MBA or management has flourished best in the corporate sector, in the for-profit sector. But today we need those insights to be applied not just to nonprofits, but more importantly, to helping us manage our city systems and cities. And that's why an MBA urban management. In fact, when we started, when Exam University was considering a course about a program for addressing cities, the typical fallback option was, of course, planning. And obviously, our choice as faculty also, because everybody of us has a planning background. Because there is nobody with a PhD in urban management in this country, right? So we're all planners of various kinds. So obviously, we would like to start a planning course. But when we had our discussions with both industry as well as leading academics and thought leaders in the domain, the consensus was it's not about planning. We've done it for 70 years. Where are we? None of the plans are being implemented. Not more than 10% of the plans are implemented in any measure. So what we need is actually somebody who can think about implementation. And what industry told us, most of the consulting houses that we consulted, that we talked to, they said, we hire planners for our urban work, we hire planners, but they can't address operations, finance, and other kinds of aspects which are very critical. So we also hire MBAs to work on cities, but they have not worked in cities. So we have to train both sets of people we hire for a year at least to get them to work together on a problem which is urban. And if you start such a program, you save us this time and effort. And there is a huge need for such people. And that's why we turned to urban management. XIM had the legacy understanding of management as a management education, and therefore it was much easier for us actually to think about how we can adapt it to a state system or to the city system, which is a non-profit system. But in today's day and age of private public partnerships, it's not about not-profit or for-profit. It is about people joining hands and working together to make our cities livable, first of all, and second, resilient against the disasters that are going to increase from climate change, and third, make it sustainable in the long term. And all of us, I'm sure even the guests we have, are all struggling and engaging actively on a daily basis with trying to find ways to address these problems. I don't think anybody has final solutions, and that's why Vyuham, so that we can engage and think about these and focus on that. So, welcome again, all of you. And I hope we have a great day ahead with insightful discussions all around. Thank you, our guests, for sharing your wisdom with our students.
Thank you for your valuable insights, ma'am. Before we begin our first session, I would like to invite esteemed guests and faculty members to take a short break and join us for high tea. Please take this opportunity to refresh, re-energize, and some refreshments. We convene at 10:15 a.m. in the C2 Seminar Hall 3 first session. Thank you, and we look forward to welcoming you back shortly.
And could you let me go first if I have to call you? Yes.
Students are requested to please be seated. Professor. of- uh, huh? नहीं सीधा नहीं दिया सॉरी ठीक है अरे कलशी मैम नहीं आया कलशी मैम नहीं आया इस बार पीछे क्यों बैठ गए बुलाओ आगे बैठने के लिए बोलो हाँ I request everyone to be seated and put your attention to the screens as we watch the video. We now officially begin with our first session of this conclave titled From Corporate Responsibility to Urban Resilience ESG, CSR, and a Sustainable City. This session brings together three distinguished voices from the fields of ESG, corporate social responsibility, sustainability, and waste management. Each of our esteemed speakers, Mr. Anand Kulkarni, Mr. Chintan Singh Suratia, privileged to have them with us today and to introduce each of our esteemed speakers. Please take a note that we'll be taking the questions after the roundtable conference. To begin, we have Mr. Anand Kulkarni, Technical Director, ESG, KPMG, India. Mr. Kulkarni is an accomplished ESG professional with 3 decades of experience around ESG strategy, reporting, and advisory accounting, sustainable finance, responsible supply chains, EHS management, and waste management. He has also worked extensively with industry reporting frameworks, including SEBI, BSR, and GRI. It offers valuable insights into how businesses can and sustainable cities. With us, sir. right, Mr. Khan, join us on stage. It is our pleasure to present you with this bouquet. Over to you, sir. Do you need the
All right. Very good morning, all. And indeed, pleasure to be here with all of you today morning. In fact, thanks to XIM University for inviting me. It's been probably my third or fourth visit to this campus, and every time I come here, I feel very. In fact, not just this university. I must also say that it's the the campus, the city by itself. Yesterday, I was talking to the driver while on my way from the airport to the city that this is such a wonderful city. I always look forward to come to for the very fact that I come from Bangalore. And I'm sure my co-panelists and other speakers here also have same feeling. When you land in Bhubaneswar and just start moving around, such a difference, vast difference between what you see in Mumbai, Bangalore, or Gurgaon for that matter. I would also like to congratulate you for organizing this special event year after year, your annual event, and naming it aptly rather as Vyuham. This was mentioned, and as I look at this Vyuham, what does it mean? It is a view. We all know about the Chakra view, and we as citizens are stuck in this Chakra view. इससे कोई बाहर निकलने का रास्ता नहीं है, and that is probably that what this conference or this discussions might help. Stuck in whether economic growth as a country, Vikasit Bharat, or whether addressing the population cities or the global problems which again impact us, and of course the resources, the future. All these are something which form the part of this view, and we really keep struggling about how to come out of this view. Are there ways? Are there any opportunities for us to come out of this view? So I'm just keeping a watch on the time. I just started my reverse counter so that hopefully I won't exceed my time. So I think I will just use this time to set a context on why and what is important, so important about it. Uh, well, if we, okay. So we are just talking here in the context of India as the largest now, most populated country in the world. We are about 1.47 billion population. And interestingly, if you look at it, almost 36% of our population lives currently in urban agglomerations. And we are not too far away. 2050 some time ago was being seen as quite far away. I never thought at 2050 I would feel it is so close by. I think I would be there in 2050. And that's why I'm concerned that 2050 is not very far away, where we are talking about a population of 1.68 billion or 168 crore, of which more than 50% would be in urban agglomerations. What does it mean? It means for all of us, sorry, that probably what it shows is that currently, as we are, one in almost three districts in India is in flood prone or drought prone regions. Currently, as it is, we are about 68% of the workforce is in these urban agglomerations, which are again susceptible to these kind of climate risks. And we are talking about 2.4 trillion USDs to be required to be invested. Don't forget that we are still talking about we are just a $4 trillion economy. We are also talking about being a 5 trillion economy. of which 2.4 as it is being estimated just going towards addressing this problem. So while cities are the future growth engines, they are also probably and they are most likely also to be the most kind of resource intensive financially as well in terms of what we do. So, and which are those top 10 cities? If we just look at the top 10 fastest growing cities in India, you would see the familiar names, what you could expect. Note that these are the cities by GDP, fastest growing by GDP. But then more importantly, if I look at it, and as again we were just talking about in the beginning, all of these cities have their own identity now, which is more of a common identity. So if yesterday I was talking to, we were talking Karan to Karan, and I myself been talking about Bangalore once was known, I would say, once was known as a garden city. No more it is known as a garden city. What is it known as? The traffic congestion that it has. Ask anybody, and they will identify Bangalore as a city of traffic congestion. And so goes with the NCR region. If you ask anyone what is NCR known for, not for the probably I mean if I may extend it to say Taj Mahal or the Yamuna or anything like that, it's known for its smog for now decades. That's where the identities of cities have changed or are changing. Talk about Chennai, no more the traditional city, but more of drought prone or flood prone city. So this is where the identities of cities have changed, and all of them share these common issues. The common problems in terms of the growth of the city or GDP growth of the city has been much more than or more than their urban carrying capacities. When it comes to the heat stress related issues, these are common across the cities. The flood related issues common across the cities. So when you look at this, and more importantly, the growth by itself leading to destruction of the ecosystems that we talk about. Again, I would more and more side probably about the city I come from. Bangalore, whatever garden city is known for, it was also known for having more than 280 water bodies. Now, how many are left? Any guesses? So the leftover are not 20, but they are less than 80. That is where the expansion, the sprawl of the cities is leading to loss of the ecological buffer zones and the water bodies, which essentially is also one of the major factor being identified for the urban floods because all these water bodies are interconnected. So when you look at these issues, and again, as I said, in my city, the time or 5 hours are being measured as time zones. 5 kilometer is measured as time zone, not as a distance. So while we look at this, it is also being seen as in terms of you look at the economic impact of this. We're talking about almost more than close to 1.5 lakh crores being lost in economic opportunities. And this is where there is an impact not just on the when you say the Indian or the national GDP, but it is for the businesses. Ultimately, where is this GDP being generated from? And why shouldn't then the businesses be concerned about it? Whose time is lost? It is the businesses which could have generated more of effective usage or efficiency and productivity of their employees. We all know, we all struggle with that when we have our colleagues, the work from home concepts are, while it started during the COVID period, but now it is more frequently being used for the traffic as a factor. So these are the issues or challenges that the businesses rather have to consider because it has got a direct correlation with their business performance. One of the important factors, and we have just probably just come out of the hot season of the year, but it is something repeating. As I said, on one hand, one in every three districts in the country is in flood-prone or drought-prone region. We also have heat waves as a very common phenomena across cities. And we also need to keep in mind that we are, as a country, and of course, globally also, but more so in the Indian context, we are now more and more moving towards the gig economy. We are talking about almost currently, or rather, being from 12 million to 23 million people working in this sector by 2050 or 2030. Sorry. So that's the kind of, and where are they working? They are all on the exposed to the natural environment, which is not anyway conducive for their productivity. And that's where you would also see that the new now regulations coming in the form of the new labor codes, etc., and the employees by themselves or the workers by themselves asking for more and more expectations from their employers to address the real challenges that they face or the loss of income or loss of livelihood, either way, both ways, that they have to go through. And this is where when you look at probably from a a delivery boy in terms of a Zomato or any delivery services, they are losing close to anywhere between 7,000 to 30,000 rupees annually just because of the traffic congestion related issues impacting their work. There is a direct bearing onto the income. Well, this is an impact onto the individual's income. You think of it, how much is the loss to the businesses who are dependent on this individual? So when we look at this, and on the other hand, when we talk about the water as a concern, a common concern across the cities, it is also about the water availability or scarcity, and on the other hand, in terms of flooding or the urban flooding that we talked about. Now, here again, when you look at this, taking the example from my own city, it's not very old that in part of the cities, people went to malls to take bath. This is not very old. This was just a few years, 3, 4, 5 years ago, when there was a severe water shortage in some part of the city. And it was not for a day, it continued almost for 3, 4 days. So these are the scarcity related issues. While still we don't recognize water as a major concern, while water we can purchase water, but then where is this water coming from, or what's the quality of the water coming from? If I may put it on a lighter note, the bald person and gray-haired person standing in front of you, I would blame it onto the water quality of the cities. So that's where there are, of course, health related or there are impacts directly taking place out of the sheer lack of quality urban infrastructure that as a citizen we are all supposed to get. And where, again, who is to blame? It was being asked, who is to blame for this? Or more than blame, I would now, we say through these discussions, what we are looking at, who would solve this problem or how would these problems get addressed? So first, of course, in terms of the businesses, as I just mentioned, when you look at for any corporate, for any business, it need not be just as a corporate issue, but for any business, the impacts coming in terms of the demand or the productivity loss, impact in terms of onto the higher employee benefits, as I just mentioned to you, if you look at the labor codes now and specific provisions for the gig workers, the add-on benefits in terms of medical insurance, in the increasing cost towards even in terms of the additional benefits to be provided to the employees in terms of their different facilities for whether from work from home or etc. These are all the add-on costs to the companies. When you look at productivity loss, there is a direct correlation with the availability. It's not just about reaching to your workplace, but you are also post reaching to your workplace, how much time you take to recoup and come back to deliver, start working on your. So these are the very obvious things, and more importantly, then comes the reputation. Let me take you to the recent uh, World Cup, FIFA. We all were interested. We saw that. And what was the World Cup final characterized by? with, or what was the unique thing about that World Cup this time? What happened in the final match? What were the uncertainties? The final of the World Cup was completely marred with the risk of getting cancelled or postponed because of the air pollution issue. So it's not something that we are talking about as urban air pollution. It was from coming in from wildfires and as a result of that. But there a major, it's not just a sports event, it is world's largest sports event, but it is also uh, a major event where across the world everyone is involved, and which are the logos which are associated with it, which are the brands which are associated with it. They are the one, their visibility probably in the air pollution, the general visibility going down, their visibility becomes more prominent. Who are contributing to this? And that's where the reputational damage comes in, because everything is branded in such events. And that's where whether the human rights related aspects or whether pollution related aspects, is your brand associated with this event, with this kind of an issue? That's where the reputational damage comes in. And of course, the lastly, the turnover. So going back to those sections of the employees, and I would even probably not just limit myself to gig employees, but also to the regular employees. Quite often than not, we see that people quitting because of the travel time that they have, or they prefer options which are closer to their workplace. And getting a replacement cost, probably you people would know more than me, 6 or 12 times of what you can for retaining an employee. So this is where the economic impacts come in. How are some examples of how some of the corporates are trying to address this? One very good example coming in from HUL, where they have started the Suvidha services in Mumbai, where they are, this is specifically in some areas, the kind of underdeveloped areas, which is part of your city ecosystem, and lot of your support services coming from there. It need not be directly to the organization by itself, but it is for the employees of your organization, whose maid, whose driver, whose all these service providers come in from that strata of the society, and you are very much dependent on them. Where do they take that? Where do they have facilities? What happens? And we all face this. I'm sure again here would very much be able to relate to this. Is where we are all dependent on our domestic support services being contributed by the maid, by the driver, or anyone or cook. If they are not able to come, your entire work gets affected. So that's where HUL has taken this specific initiative across 25 different areas in Mumbai city alone, and where it is probably been helping more than 5 lakhs as per their estimates. On another hand, another corporate like Godrej, they are working purely onto the mangrove restoration in Mumbai area. Again, those of you who travel, if you see when you land in Mumbai, you see a huge, vast mangrove land. This is the ecological buffer zone that Mumbai has. If this gets destroyed, which is slowly getting destroyed, what is a common identity of Mumbai that every monsoon Mumbai in Marathi, as because I come with from Maharashtra, so it is called as Mumbai Tumli. It is underwater. This will not be just once in a monsoon, but this will become a very common identity of the city that all the time it is underwater, because the mangrove forests are the one which are protecting the erosion and of course the flooding or the of the areas. And another third such effort coming in, of course, from the gig economy side, where now rest areas being provided to the gig workers in different cities. As I understand, already this has been implemented in 3 to 4 cities in India. There was a huge impact on all these, the likes of Zomato and Swiggy, apart from what we currently hear about the food and other aspects, food quality, I mean, food safety and food quality, but more so on the delivery workers. And as you see, typically, this is where what happens in the most or the peak time of their business. When does the IPL happen? Any IPL fans here? Yeah, which period of the year IPL takes place? March, April. And what do they advertise? All brands are there. Blinkit to Insta, everyone is there. All that there. Sit in the air conditioned stadium inside your home and enjoy the IPL. We'll give you the food. We'll provide you. Who is going to deliver this? The again coming in the delivery boys, the gig economy. But that's where there is a major loss of productivity, major health impacts, major impacts to these services. They are unable to fulfill the market demand when the peak demand is at its peak. That's where again now these companies have started taking initiatives to set up air conditioned rest areas for their employees. So I think now how do we really see like these CSR initiatives? These are part of the CSR initiatives of corporates to address their own business. We are always being seen as CSR is not charity. CSR is something which is again part of my business sustainability. Whether you like it or not, it has got a linkage. And that's where now this is also being seen. One of the important principles under the CSR is that it should address to the local area where you have influence. And that's where looking at how your CSR activities would be from more in terms of location-based risk. How do your CSR efforts contribute to the locational risks? More in terms of the people that contribute to your business, and of course in terms of improving the systems and so on. Like I talk about the Godrej program for mangrove ecosystem. Godrej, the same Godrej is there in Vikhroli, which is just next to this, the mangrove areas. So while, as I said, that it's not just something to look at only as a problem, we are here also to discuss in terms of what could be the solutions and way forward for this. The cities of future and you as a key stakeholder in this. When we are talking about future, the future is not too far away. As I said, I don't see this too far. This is something which is very close, up and very close. How do you play the role in forming or shaping these cities, making them more sustainable from the businesses who, of course, are the major contributors to whatever challenges that we are and who are also the impacted parties for this. So thank you so much once again for inviting me over here. I hope to have more meaningful discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are grateful for your valuable thoughts on urban agglomeration, global prospects, role of cities as future engines of growth, and so much more. This truly gave us an enriching outlook. Now, our next speaker is Mr. Chintan Singh Suratia, Head CSR Advisory, SGS India Private Limited. Unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances today, he will not be present here, but he will be joining us online. Mr. Suratia brings around 12 years of experience in sustainability, CSR, and social impact. His professional journey has included roles across CSR advisory, assessment, program management, and consulting. At SGS, at the intersection of corporate responsibility and social impact, helping organizations design and strengthen for CSR initiatives. There's also been conversations around impact measurement, social accountability, and sustainable development. Right, Mr. Chintan Singh Suratia to please join us virtually.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we can hear you.
All right. I just want to present my screen if you can allow me to present. So it appears that the host has disabled the attendee screen sharing. So if you can just allow me.
Sir, they're doing it just 2 minutes.
Sure.
Yeah. Sir, you can start now.
I hope my screen is visible, right? If you can confirm if my screen is visible.
Yes, sir, it is visible now.
All right. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. It's unfortunate that I'm not being able to be present with all of you today, and allowing me to present this virtually. I would first like to extend my gratitude and all thanks to Professor Mishra, the faculty members, and a very dynamic team of Vyuham who has organized this. Right now, this is first example of resilience. Right, so uh, since I'm joining virtually, there's a small possibility that my internet may be interrupted. Uh, Perhaps because of the electricity failure. Please don't blame me and blame urban resilience for that if that happens. So um, I just want you to look at this picture very carefully. Right now, these are not two different cities. It's a picture clicked from a 40th floor of a very luxurious floor in Mumbai, where you see stark differences. Right, one represents basically the, just a second, aspiration, investment, development, growth, and the other typically represents the vulnerability, informality, and the unmet needs, right? And this is why I believe that the CSR conversation needs to move beyond the question of where is the development needed, and rather what kind of cities that are we trying to build, because India's development story will increasingly be an urban story. And if our cities are not inclusive or resilient and well managed, the economic growth alone will not translate into quality of life. Now, I'll just move to the next. Now, I've been in this space for quite some time now. It's 1.5 decades. And for years, we have seen that CSR has helped improve education, healthcare, livelihood, environmental conservation. Yet, despite all these investments, our cities continue to struggle with flooding, heat waves, the water crisis, as my dear friend was just mentioning about in the last presentation. So, today's session is not about whether the CSR funds are being utilized in a right or a very right so manner, but the real question is, can CSR do something bigger than just funding projects? Can it help cities become more resilient? And that is exactly what we would want to explore today. And I would like to leave with one thought when we conclude the presentation, is that what if CSR is not merely a spending, but rather used as a resilience capital, right? Now, a dear friend of mine was mentioning about Mumbai and its flooding. Mumbai is naturally not resilient to the flooding, right? Now, just ask yourself a question: when flooding happens, when a city stops functioning, who really pays? I mean, the common answers largely is basically the citizens, because your transportation is disrupted, municipal corporations because the essential services are disrupted, and of course the environment. But what we largely forget is that even the corporates are affected by it, right? The employees, the operations, the supply chain. And here, the city risk becomes more of a business continuity risk, right? And hence, a flood is not just a municipal event, but it's a shared disruption across people, services, markets, and ecosystem. Right. Now, I just want to give you some statistics here, right? So, the CSR became a mandate in the year 2013-14, and in the same year, we spent around 10,000 to 12,000 crores. Last year, or perhaps this year, the figure would reach at around 40,000 crores, and in the next 10 years, it will reach 1.2 lakh crores, right? Which is 3x of the outlay that we have seen this year or the last year. And the illustrative urban opportunity here is basically 12,000 crore rupees annually, right? Now, the key issue here is not whether the CSR fund outlay will grow, but the key question that we should explore is whether where will this capital go? Will it continue spending on the isolated activities, which is what we have largely seen in last few years? Of course, there are some great examples, case studies, uh, and I'm sure being an urban practitioner, you might also have an exposure to it. But the real question is that if the CSR funds can help strengthen the city systems internally, right? Now, I just want to explore this slide on CSR and urban resilience. In our prior experiences working with a lot of corporates, what we have realized and the fundamental question that we have tried asking here is that why does it is the case that urban resilience receive limited CSR funding? I'll just give you one example. Mumbai approximately received 9,000 crores of CSR funds in last 3 years. So on an average, it is closer to 2,800 to 3,000 crores. Now, not an official data, but if I look at the numbers, the issues relevant to urban resilience received only 198 to 200 crores in last 1 year, right? And mind you, that all these funds that have received largely have been utilized in a standalone way, or rather creating an assets. Now, when we deep dive into it, there are three fundamental questions that we are trying to understand. The first challenge that we see is the mandate confusion, right? Many corporates that we work with, they believe that the cities are government's responsibility, and rightly so. I mean, it is a government's responsibility, but so are the rural geographies as well. Second fundamental problem is basically the measurement challenge, right? When you're working in a rural geographies, it is very easy, perhaps not so easy actually, to do an attribution or a contribution as to how many people have benefited out of it. But when we look at it in from the urban context, it is really much harder to measure how much flooding we were able to avoid, how much heat exposure we were able to reduce, to what extent resilience has been increased. And the third part that I would want to deliberate on is the execution complexity. Of course, the multiple stakeholders, the permissions and no objection certificates, ownership arrangements, and long-term maintenance. We were working in Noida on a 12-kilometer storm drainage water. It's a high-scale project, perhaps 20, 30, 50 crores of CSR fund outlay. And people were skeptical, the corporates were skeptical as to why do we take up this engagement? What support do we require or do we need from the municipal authority, whether we would be able to get it or not? And that question still baffles a lot of corporates that we work with. Now, another facet that I want to explore today is that why would or why should a corporate through its CSR funds really care about the cities? And I usually ask a very simple question, that where do you operate? Where do companies usually operate from, right? Most companies are being operated from the cities like Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, Chennai, Hyderabad. Cities basically concentrate employees, the customer, the infrastructure, the logistics, the economic activity. When a city fails, the business continuity suffers. And that is why urban resilience create both the social value as well as the business value. And companies, again, do not operate outside cities, right? And the idea here is that the companies do not operate outside cities, but stronger cities also create a stronger businesses. And hence, urban resilience, it's even more important that we have thought of, let's say, 10 years back. I just want to give you a brief of how we have moved as a space in last 13, 14 years. Now, CSR 1.0, it largely dealt with, let's say, spending. It was more of a checkbook charity concept where the India Inc. wanted to comply with the CSR spend, right? The question that we were asking ourselves was, did we spend the money, right? We have now evolved. I will not say I'm highly optimistic person. And I believe that that paradigm shift is distinctly visible now. The CSR 2.0, perhaps, which is what we are sitting in today, it basically asks that did the intervention create impact? And largely to do so with the government's push also, the mandate push also. But the ideal view should be the 3.0, which is in the times to come, where we start looking at strengthening the city systems as well. And the questions which we should ask will not just be on whether we delivered the commitment, but whether we also increase resilience or did we reduce the future risk. And that is the shift, right? And that shift will perhaps put us in a situation where our urban resilience is improved, our cities become livable, we can anticipate certain risks, and those risks could be avoided in time. Now, I just want to give you a few examples of certain CSR projects that we have observed. Of course, there are certain corporates. A good friend of mine was mentioning about the projects supported by Godrej on mangrove forestation and the HUL's project. There are certainly certain best practices, good examples of how the CSR fund should be utilized. But if you look at the space overall, I mean, those projects are very isolated. Those projects are standalone. Those projects are basically asset based, right? And not really connecting to the infrastructure, the operations, the behavior, the data, and the ownership. Now, let's take an example of tree plantation, right? Tree plantation remains tree plantation. So, the point that I'm trying to make here is that the sectors do not change. I mean, as far as urban resilience is concerned, you will work on water management, you will work on afforestation, you will work on waste management, right? So the sector doesn't space, the thematic areas don't change. Waste still remains waste, health remains health. What changes is the lens and how we look at certain things, right? So instead of tree plantation, how can we look at urban cooling? Instead of health camps, how can we look at heat health preparedness? Or instead of installing waste bins, how can we look at creating a circular waste system? Is the questions that probably we need to ask today. And rather than asking what activity did we fund, let's start trying to understand and asking that which urban risks that we are trying to reduce, right? Now, there's a few of the good case examples of the CSR funded urban resilience from Bangalore, from Chennai, from Mumbai, from Ahmedabad. I'm sure a lot of you would have an exposure to it. Now, as an advisor to a lot of corporates, we have started picking up these issues with a lot of our clients that we work with. And we are also trying to design certain projects which are scalable, measurable, community priority projects. I just want to give you one example. What happens with water? What is visible is basically measured and valued. A lot of corporates today work on rainwater harvesting. The fundamental question or the grave question that we should ask is, what are we doing with the groundwater? We would have seen a lot of examples in Delhi, in Mumbai, in Bangalore, where the groundwater is deteriorating. We have started working very closely with the Mumbai Municipal Corporation, few district administration authorities in various districts in Maharashtra as well as in Karnataka. And this we believe that should be looked at from a very, very serious angle. And the entire shift from just creating the assets to a system is something would give a way forward. Now, I just want to deep dive into certain water resilience projects, right? And the idea here is that we move from just creating water access to water security, right? And if we look at certain areas, the urban water challenge remains the same across all of the geographies, be it Gurgaon, be it Delhi, be it Mumbai. The encroachment, the wetland loss, sewage and dumping, the groundwater depletion, loss of natural drainage, and beautification without ecology. But if we can link this five action together, perhaps we'll be able to build a better water security system for any city. So let's say a restored water body is a flood buffer, it's a recharge asset, biodiversity pocket, and community commons, and not just an opportunity for us to to get some traction or visibility that this initiative has been supported by so and so corporates. Now, there's nothing wrong with funding a dustbin installation, right? But what we should ask is what happens after the installation? Who collects waste? Who processes it? Who maintains it? And if those answers are missing, we are just merely funding an asset and not a system. And the future of CSR will lie in designing the system around it. Yeah. Another facet that I wanted to touch upon was, let's say, disaster readiness. We have worked or we have seen the Assam floods very recently, or every alternative year we are posed with the recurring flooding, right? Now, a lot of CSR funds also go into uh, post-flood situation, right? And that's largely to do with the relief activity that we usually do. So, four moments which I feel that CSR funded technology could add value is that you have to understand where the risks are being concentrated, and that basically prioritize your preparedness. Now, during the flood or any natural calamity, how do you translate those signal into coordinated action for a faster or more targeted decision? Sad to say, but very recently in Mumbai, I'm sure if you'd have read newspapers, then in Vasai Virar area, the city was standstill. I mean, for a week's time, people were not able to just step out of their home. And certainly, those intelligence layer, if that's being added, it could really create a faster response and more targeted decisions, right? Of course, target relief and recovery with evidence is important for a better allocation of the funds and the learning. And as far as long term is concerned, I think we need to embed that risk intelligence into the overall development. And hence, the resilience here is not only to know where the risk will hit, but to act before the disruption becomes a disaster. Now, since all of you would be taking your professional careers in the times to come, I just thought of putting it across the five major pillars where you should start asking yourself to design those CSR interventions which could make the cities resilient, right? Evaluate risk, right? How much, which shock or stress would be reduced? Understand the system, that which city system becomes stronger. Look at the inclusion, like who are exposed, who will benefit from your interventions. With respect to governance, you would try to understand who owns, operates, and maintain it, and how will risk reduction be measured. So the decision rule for any urban manager or who is going to take a role of, let's say, a CSR manager with an exposure to urban management, the project is resilient led only when all these five answers are formed in one credible chain. So first, you reduce the risk, you develop a stronger system, you ensure that your benefits are inclusive, your ownership is sustained, and you create a measurable evidence. Now, this is my closing thought and remark, that the question CSR asks determines the value it creates, right? So the traditional question that we have been asking so far is how many people have benefited, which is important for reach, inclusion, and accountability. But the system level question or the resilience question that we should ask ourselves is that, is the city better prepared for tomorrow, which will eventually measure whether the system is stronger for the future or not. Thank you so much. I conclude my presentation.
Thank you, sir.
I, as she said, I was an ophthalmologist. I would say, because I don't practice anymore. I'm still qualified. But my hands are now full only and only working with communities to build stronger waste management models. It's been almost now 10th year now that I can see I moved into the RWA space and 8 years into the waste management sector. Um, my focus basically, I don't know how it evolved. It was truly more of a desperation than actually passion. People say it was passion, but it's more of a desperation. When you step out being a doctor, you clearly can see the impact of sanitation and hygiene on the health sector. I think that was my starting point. And once I moved into the RWS space, I realized that that was a slightly larger platform than an individual platform, which I could use to do things which I've always wanted to do. We always keep talking, ye nahi ho raha, wo nahi ho raha. But then I think, what is it that I can do to make change, make a difference? I think with that feeling, with that, um, I would say compulsion, I think I stepped into this, into the RWA sector. And I think it was just meant to be, because the year I joined RWA was also the year when solid waste management guidelines 2016 came in. And probably when we had our first meeting with the Honorable Deputy Commissioner of the area, I think I was the only one who had read that 50-page gazette. So, and it actually gave me a deep understanding of what waste is for the first time. I mean, it really hit me like waste can also be that huge a problem. We talk about sanitation, but I think somewhere we zero down to waste there. Can I have the pointer? I'll keep changing the slide. So, nothing new to us. I'll scroll through the first few slides because our previous speakers have already touched upon what resilient urban systems are. So I'll just come to some case studies. Of course, we all know waste doesn't is not just a sanitation issue. It impacts health, it impacts economy, it impacts climate, it impacts community in every way, and the biggest thing, it impacts quality of life. Why I emphasize on quality of life is we all take breaks, I mean, we are all the privileged class. We every 3, 4, 5, 6 months we take out time and we travel abroad. Why do we travel abroad? What is it that India is actually lacking? We have everything that can build a very strong nation. Economy is booming, population is our strength. I would call it our strength. We have the most talented people, who are performing across the globe. What is it that is missing? I think somewhere I sat down, I reflected. I think it is the ownership to the country. 15th August, Republic Day, we just stand up, we hoist a flag, we give thumbs up when the Operation Sindoor posts are coming in our group. What have we done beyond that for our country is something we all need to reflect. And do we actually need to step out, go for vacations abroad, or should we make our country that strong, that clean? We have all landscapes. We have deserts, we have mountains, we have beaches, we have everything. You say it and we have it, but still we choose to go for a vacation abroad. So also you talk about education abroad. I mean, I see some of the most brilliant students I've interacted with in XIM University, but still our children go out and study abroad, they settle abroad. What is it that compels them? It is the quality of life. It is a system. They may be earning more in India, but they still wish to go and settle abroad for the quality of life, for the systems that the developed world is offering them. So I think it's about time that we all start reflecting on it and start working towards making our own nation stronger, resilient. We have everything. It's just that I think we all need to get together rather than working in silos, and see how we can contribute towards a strong nation. And yes, the question when we come to waste management is not how we manage waste. It is also how we build cities that generate less waste, that recover the waste which is generated. Um, when it was very interesting when in the very first meeting when we discussed what is wet and what is dry and what is sanitary, and I literally went back home and took a look at my dustbin. And I said, what is it that I throw here, that is actually causing such a big issue? So what? Peels, fruit, vegetable peels, your leftover food, then paper, plastic, metal, glass, then sanitary waste. I think more or less this defines our dustbin. And trust me, I clearly remember, I'm 55 now, and when I was in school, I did not have a dustbin at home. Really, I'm telling you, we did not have a dustbin at home, because everything that we used after that initial usage still had a utility value. And we were able to extract that value. Your curtains were cut down to make bags, your old, clothes that you had actually outgrown were given to your siblings. I clearly remember 40 days, initial 40 days of the newborn, he or she used to wear old clothes, and now you offer it to a mom. Oh, my child is going to wear old clothes. Oh, so even if you offer your clothes to domestic help these days, they are unwilling to accept it. So why? Where is that problem? The fruit and the vegetable peels used to go in the cow standing in either our backyard, or with our doodwala, pick it up and just give it. I think we made an effort that nothing goes waste. That effort, I think, is missing now. That realization that every item that we tend to throw in the dustbin has a utility value. Of course, when we talk about waste management system, what is the first thing? Prevent. We talk about R's. We were talking about 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. Now we talk about rethink. Yeah. rethink, then reduce, repurpose, repair. All of those R's keep coming back. So, but still, there's a lot of work being done on recovery and recycling. I was just talking to Akanksha ji, and we were just thinking how to manage what is already been generated. But there is very little work which has been done on how to reduce, how to reuse, right? And how to share, how to pool. So I think there's a lot of scope there. Of course, a lot of it goes against economy because it would reduce consumption. But yes, I think economy has to be balanced with environment. That is the only way. We are drowning in waste 1.85 lakh tons. You can imagine, can you actually visualize the kind of waste that we are generating? Just by very simple habits, I think we can change all of this. Trust me, I've been working in this space for over 8 years now. It is absolutely doable. So I'll talk about this model. This is my small community where I took over as the secretary about 10 years back. Uh, I think nothing exceptional. People tell me it's a great model. It's all over the social media, videos floating here and there, and they keep coming back to me and telling me, "ये आपने कैसे किया? ये आपने क्या?" I said there was nothing, absolutely nothing exceptional about this model. Simple things. Waste segregation. Now, waste segregation is 80% of waste management. We need to understand technology and other solutions are 20%. The major effort where we lack is segregation and how to make people segregate. You know, it's been quite challenging. I mean, I can preach here, I can stand here and preach all the time that alag karo, 12 years of Swachh Bharat mission, and we still are stuck at the basic fundamental step of segregation. Why is it that people are unable to segregate? People are not unwilling. I mean, all of you sitting here, after the session, I'm very sure you'll also reflect that it is something so doable. I'm not asking you to kind of look into your dustbin, pull out things from there, and then keep it into separate streams. We are asking is do not mix it in the first place. And 3 bins initially, and now with 2026 new guidelines, 4 bin system. And of these 4 bins, wet waste is primarily about 55 to 60% of all waste generated. 35 to 39% is about dry, which is most of it is recyclable. And 1 to 4% is sanitary and special care, which is in real sense waste, which is what we can we should handle with fancy technologies. Rest 55% easily compostable, or we can have biogas or biomethanation plants. And paper, plastic, metal, glass are actually not waste. It's actually a raw material for the recycling industry. We need to change the perception. But the fact remains, the minute you mix it, everything becomes waste. You've seen a pot of water, portable matka or water, and you add 1 drop of poison to it, the entire water becomes poisonous, and so is the waste story also. And imagine every household of 4 people on an average generates about 1 to 1.5 kilograms of waste, right? And if we don't have the garbage collector coming to our doorstep for a day or two, we hate looking at it. It feels like a burden. Have you actually multiplied it with the number of households in a city or a country? And then you expect a handful of people working in an urban local body to take up responsibility of something you don't even wish to look at. And the mountains of garbage on highways, you can see landfill sites. You roll up your windows, you don't even want to look that side. I mean, I clearly remember when I was a child, we never had motor operated windows. We had the handle operated ones. And the minute we were traveling from Delhi towards Chandigarh, that highway, you see a big mountain of landfill, which is Bhalaswa and Gazipur. And we would, array, aa gaya mountain. And you roll up the windows and you look this side. But the fact still remains that the mountain is there. And the fact also is that we created that mountain, and also that we are impacted by it. And more than us, it is our generations to come, those will be impacted by these mountains. And also the fact remains that only and only the people who generate waste can manage those mountains. Yes, we can have corporates, we can have CSRs, we can have technologies coming in, but the fact remains that people generate waste, and waste can be managed best only and only if it is the first step managed at source where it is being generated. After it leaves your home, it there is no way you can handle those volumes which the country is generating. It becomes impossible. You may curse the governments no matter what, but we equally are responsible for it. What is a government? It is our representation too. And if governments are responsible, yes, they are very much. But I, as a waste generator, am I not responsible? Something that I am creating and that I can solve also just by merely putting it into three bins, nothing beyond that. And we still choose not to do it. Why? Because we are not unwilling, it's just that we are uninformed and uninvolved. That is what this colony changed. We informed each and every waste generator, whether it was a child, an adult, a senior citizen, that you can actually, just by sitting at home, by one small habit change, you can contribute hugely towards your nation. Would you want to do that or not? I think with that is what changed everything. Now you preach, okay, fine, we've told them, they're mobilized. What next? Next are simple solutions. Oh, I do not have two bins. You don't need two bins. You may start with two buckets or three buckets and a bag. Okay, still we want bins. Okay, fine, we got the bins there at the doorstep at a competitive pricing directly from the manufacturer. We send volunteers door to door to explain not just the residents but the domestic helps as to what needs to go there. But the domestic helps are pretty much in a rush, ek ghar se dusre ghar jumping, and the lady of the house says, मेरी मेड को तंग मत करना, नहीं तो मेरा घर कोलैप्स हो जाएगा. Okay, so now how do you tackle that? They are the ones in affluent households. It's the domestic help which is working in the kitchen with the waste, not us. So we brought in something which was a game changer, a very small incentive where we provided each and every domestic help, and her daughter was enrolled and was being provided on a monthly basis a supply of biodegradable sanitary napkin. I think that changed everything. They would come every month to me to take the supply, and they would talk about problems, क्या दिक्कतें क्या आती हैं, and that actually gave us the solutions, because if you know the problem, only then you can find the solution. And they were mobilized and motivated enough because they were getting something in return. And 8 years now, the program has been working tremendously. And what is the cost of the supply? 750 rupees annually for a lady. Each one of the household paid up, each one. And the community supported not just waste management, they also supported a women empowerment program side by side. So we integrated this system. We brought in children, about 85 children of the colony were given 4 households each, and they went door to door. They were the ones who were explaining, not me preaching, but them doing it. Signature campaigns, phone calls, aaj checks, random checks at their 4 households, whether the waste is actually being segregated or not. And my biggest, I would say, award was when a lady wrote in the colony group that my 2-year-old Dr. Ruby throws banana peel in one dustbin and chocolate wrapper in another. Where is the problem? Nothing. If a child 2-year-old can do it, we can do it too. It's just that we do not know what is the impact of our very small little action. I think when you tell the people that, just by this small thing, a lot will change. Assure them that we are there to support you. Also assure them that if you make an effort to segregate, we will ensure that your efforts don't go waste. We brought in, from the day we started preaching, we had a community compost pits ready. Not even a single day when I received segregated waste did the effort go waste. From day one, we were composting. Today, it's been 8 years of community composting. 24 hours, we run a center which is called a reuse, recycle center, and people across Delhi stuff, not just Delhi. I've received packages from Mumbai, Panipat. Yeah, you recycle, please. I'll make an effort to send it to you. At least I'll be assured that my stuff will be put to best use in a responsible manner. And we've diverted close to 10 lakh kilograms of waste from the landfill site over these 8 years. And trust me, if I say the cost of technology was absolutely nothing, supported only by the community user fee model, no CSR, no nothing. It is all running on its own, only on uh, what I would say 1200 rupees a month, which each household pays us, goes towards security, towards parks, towards cleanliness. Waste management is only 10% of what we spend. And you see, you have a beautiful system in place running on an autopilot. I travel widely and still the system keeps running. It is independent of me, because we've created a very strong system, because we've made it independent of individual choices, individual actions and behaviors. It runs on its own now. Everyone takes responsibility, that my act doesn't spoil the running system. So I think that is what the community has done. And 5 years back, I realized that there's a lot which is going from my side, and it was very difficult. I don't know where that work life balance is. I have yet to see that. But so I decided, I took a call that this is my calling, and I will take a total switch from my medical profession into this, because I want to give it my 200%. And that was when Why Waste Wednesdays was found. And uh, it's been working for 5 years, and with minimal resources, I would say. It was only last financial year that we got CSR funding for a couple of projects. But trust me, because I've worked with the communities, creating models which were sustainable on their own, I think my own projects which I bring in through the foundation also are sustainable to 90% without external sources of funding. So we've replicated zero waste to landfill communities, colonies. We've done 127-acre hospital through a CSR support of a PSU last year. It was the talk of the town. We've done various colonies across government and private and defense forces sector. I work a lot with the cantonments and military stations, and let me tell you, it's not just an honor, it's a luxury to be working with the defense forces. Their systems are, I think, is something which all must take our lessons from. We've done events, zero waste to landfill. It just starts with an idea how you can actually reduce and manage your waste better, starting from small colony events to college events. And now we went up to Rashtrapati Bhavan. We've done 3 events at Rashtrapati Bhavan, zero waste to landfill. And trust me, the most prestigious place where all the ministers and all the bureaucrats are visiting, that area. We had a bin station right in the heart of the food court, and the floating population, which is not going to come back to me again, was made to segregate, and not in one, two, three, four, 9 categories. We managed segregation when the housekeeping staff of over 80 was unable to manage the waste there during the events. We had only 8 people get the visitors segregate into 9 categories, just 8 of them. See the cost reduction, the manpower reduction, the training capacity building element, the system integration. There is so much that we can do. It's just that it is very low on our priority list. Only a few people sitting here talk about waste management. You think about people who are generating waste. So those are the ones we need to go, and which is why I say I have a model that each person has to go and empower at least 5, and that is how we will have that ripple effect. Yes, so that went now up to the city level. We did one city in the last financial year, Hisar. We worked there for 7 months. First day when I went for a meeting, we discussed the Indore model, we discussed the Delhi model, we discussed the Goa model, and we said, Indore model will, it's a great model. They've done extensive work, but now more than the work, I think it's like rank one that we have to maintain it. So there's a lot of money which is going in just to sustain rank one. I think somewhere we need to understand that we have to further evolve. So that's a very, I would say, money intensive model. What we did in Hisar was very interesting. We utilized the apprentices which were already engaged with the municipal corporation. We utilized their own manpower for workforce. We only had 5 people of our NGO supervising that entire program. We built that program with very crisp measurable outcomes and KPIs, which led to a 50% citywide segregation in just 2.5 months, just with putting the systems in place. Why doesn't it happen in Delhi? My people of course ask me why Hisar and why not Delhi. People of Hisar feel for Hisar. They know Hisar mera ghar hai. Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai. How many of us feel that it's my hometown? How many of us? And which is the feeling we need to inculcate in people, that this is my home too. This is, it is bringing, it is the place where I earn, it is the place which is feeding my children, which is contributing to my education. And every public space has to be respected equally. Though you respect your own homes, you don't want trash in your homes. You want your homes to be organized and clean. Why not public spaces? I think somewhere the focus needs to shift from technology infrastructure alone model to investing in building people's character. I visited South Korea and Japan, both these countries, and these are things which I observed personally. I was in Japan, I was sipping my tea, evening 7 o'clock. There was nobody in the road. I was in the balcony, sixth floor, and across the building across, there was a gentleman on the seventh, eighth floor. He was smoking a cigarette. There was nobody watching him. What would you expect in our Indian context? That ash would go right, he'll flip the ash down. When nobody was watching him, he pulled out an ashtray. So that is the character. And we really and sincerely, my request to the CSR sector here is, we must put in some resources towards building character of people as well. We also as a country need a moral revolution. We have everything else. We need moral revolution, ownership towards my own country, that feeling that yes. And also we talk about sarkar kuch karni hai. The other day I attended panel discussion. I was in the audience. Dr. Ananda Ranganathan, he was talking about, what is it that is stopping India from becoming a superpower? And he said something really profound, and he said it loud. He said it's the government itself, the state itself. And what is sadly has happened is we've given, and somehow we feel that the responsibility of our country is only the government's job. Only and only they are responsible for building the nation. No, government is only one stakeholder in nation building. The nation is defined by the character and the actions of its people. I think that needs to come in more than anything else. That is the feeling that we must work towards bringing in the people. And my request to all the educational institutions, I'm standing in one, esteemed, is also prepare your team, your students, with that feeling that irrespective of anything, I think I have to contribute to my nation. And I should see, yes, of course, career is important, profession is important. I stand here still, I'm talking to students of the management program and business administration. Well, I have to yet build a sustainable model for my own NGO. But that said, I think, isn't it my responsibility? What my family earns today is also coming from this nation, from the society. I think we have all a responsibility and a huge one to return to the society, and let us also reflect and spend time on how we can do it. Um, I'll just quickly scroll through some of the slides and give you some more small projects which we have been doing. So zero waste to landfill spaces event is something called Recycle Mela we hold across Delhi NCR, where if people cannot send their recyclables to us, again with the CSR support, we have two vehicles which run across Delhi NCR and collect recyclable material and material for reuse from the doorstep without an MOQ. Because for me, that small effort that an individual is making towards segregation is what is the fundamental building block of waste management. Swachh Vahini is what we use to pick up. Paper Loop is another project where we go to organizations. We have IOCL as one of our partners, Safdarjung Hospital. We pick up paper from there and we, in exchange, give recycled paper. Of course, carbon footprints is a reason there, but more than that, recycled products also require a market. It's very difficult. You expect a recycled product which is not as fancy looking as a virgin material product to be cheaper than the virgin material, whereas it is otherwise. It's expensive because there's a cost of segregation, collection, transportation, and processing. So let us try and support the recycling industry in whatever manner we can. We have environment education. We've registered about close to 2,600 institutions with us in Delhi NCR who are working towards dealing with plastics. Project we call Borrow a Bag, a very beautiful model that we built. Every bag has a QR code. You deposit 20 rupees, um, available across 1,000 stores in Delhi. Every bag carries a QR, scan the code, go to the list of stores, return the bag at any point of time across these 1,000 stores, and you get your 20 rupees back. So we have now 2 lakh bags in circulation, but we could do a lot more. The lack of enforcement on single use plastic is one of the major roadblocks. I think about time I would close this only by saying my last and final words. We don't need solutions. We are the solution. We've created the problem and nobody can solve it better than us. So let's each one of us work towards solving problems, problems not just of waste, but let's build more resilient cities. And I think you know it better than me what resilience would mean. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. We truly appreciate your thoughtful words and how impact of self-reflection and contribution can make the real change. I now invite our two distinguished speakers, Mr. Anand Kulkarni and Dr. Ruby Makhija, along with our moderator, Dr. Kajra Mishra, on stage as we are ready to move for the round table discussion and Q&A session.
We've just heard three of our esteemed, can you hear me? Okay. We've just heard three of our esteemed speakers tell us with a great deal of passion, understanding, and experience how small initiatives to much larger citywide initiatives are needed if we are going to be working towards not just sustainable but resilient cities. And it's interesting. Each of them actually has a very interesting question. Sorry. Mr. Kulkarni, to start with, asked us, what is this? Can we do something add to the right ways in which we can engage with the consequences that we are facing today and which are borne by those who don't sit in our air conditioned rooms, who are actually serving service people who are actually without which a city does not run. I think that was a very profound question that his entire presentation revolved around, and how it is, businesses always think about how they are going to benefit from any investment they make. And rightly so, that's their job. But the question is, do they also consider that by not investing in something, what is the opportunity cost to them? And that is, I think, the key thought that Mr. Kulkarni left us. I think after that, we had Mr. Suratia, who Mr. Suratia asked us a very good question. He posed that CSR entities, they invest in projects. The question is, can we do something? Can CSR invest in things that change systems underlying the issues that we see this today? The immediate causes, flooding, immediate causes, we know. But what are the real underlying systems that have given rise to the more proximate or visible causes? And can CSR invest in those in rectifying or addressing systemically what perils our cities? I think that question that he raised is one we have been discussing a lot in the school and in larger fora also. That first question is, which a number of years ago we asked, why is CSR not investing in urban issues? And at that point of time, I still remember only Wipro had a head which was in their CSR, which was sustainability. And there they looked at cities, not only rural. Most CSR invested in the rural areas. Rural areas do need a lot of attention. There is no questioning about it. But the fact that urban areas are emerging as hotspots of disaster, literally, and are going to affect all of us, including those in the rural areas. That is something that we are coming to realize, I think, maybe in the last 7, 8 years. I think COVID gave us a good picture of that, and it was a good shakeup. And finally, I think what we've just heard from Dr. Makhija, I appreciate the way, Dr. Makhija, you put it, that 80% of our issues do not require any investment. All it requires is for all of us to think. I was reminded of a story that somebody had narrated to me. An old lady goes up to Buddha with a diya. And then Buddha asked her, Ma, you are wearing this sari? What happens after some time when it gets old? She says, no, when it gets old, I don't throw it away. I cut it up and make it into bags or footmats. When those go away, get worn, I wash them well, and then out of the rags, I make the bati for the diya. And that is the diya that I am giving you. And ultimately, of course, that bati becomes ash. So, and then Buddha says, yes, mati se mati tak. It comes from the soil, from nature basically, and goes back to nature. I think circularity का और ज्यादा कुछ अच्छा example नहीं हो सकता है. And this is the three great blindnesses that always talk about. We are blind to the fact that most of our sustainability issues lie in cities, and we have to pay attention. For a long time, we were completely blind to that. We talked of sustainability in other ways. The other thing that we are blind to is high capital investment. It's not about capital investment, it's about value change, about the first feeling that I need to get involved, not just change things, my lifestyle and my life, but get in communities, change things in the communities. And the third blindness that I always felt was the fact that those state sector, CSR, or funds are coming for public investment of any kind, any social investment, if you call it. We seem to be blind to the fact that it is systemic. It is not about one project, one impact, one disaster today. It is about addressing the systems that actually underlie what is given. So three blindnesses that we always are trying to push away from most of our heads, that please look at these three. I think all three have been addressed very well in these three talks. And I think we need to take cognizance of this very, very carefully. And about value change, ma'am, I think, of course, you hit the nail on the head. I don't know if in my classes I have raised this question with my students, but I have in my orientation, I think. But I always ask in my class. I was earlier in rural management. Again, there is a social face to rural management. So, but as MBA students, we are always thinking of the package we get. That's the bottom line and the reality. And of course, very appropriately so, because it's a huge investment for them. So they need to, all of us, them carry high EMI burdens. So, but the question is this, that would you like to work in an entity or do some job that will add a few lakhs to an already fat pocket? Or would you like to take a 10, or would you be okay with taking a 10% cut in your package and work for something that will add 5,000, 10,000 to some person who struggles for their livelihood? Whether it's a street vendor, whether it's a SHG member, or whether it is a person who is a gig worker who is suffering from heat stress and therefore unable to work on some days. I think that is the question of value. That where do you see your value actually coming from and your life leading there? With that, I think I would urge all of you to ask our speakers what I've said, what came to my mind when I was listening to them. I would urge all of you to raise the questions that emerge in your heads, that you have been sort of thinking of while you're listening to them. Instead of us talking anymore, I think it's very important that all of you tell us and ask us what has been bothering you. Any questions? Yes, please.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, ma'am, for such valuable insights which you shared with us. My question is that, ma'am, you talked about the government. Like we think that government responsibilities solely that things should be managed and all, but we as like we should also be the one who are taking the responsibility and taking action regarding that. So we can see today that EPR is becoming like it is becoming very important nowadays. So I would like to ask that where do you feel that there is a gap in the implementation of the EPR, EPR, and how can it become more effective at the urban level? Thank you.
So yes, EPR is a great. Please sit down. So EPR is a game changer again if implemented in the right sense. We were just discussing that you have to register on the CPCP portal. The portal itself, you can see there are so many brands, and of course, plastic is just one odd example. Now we have solid waste also entering into the EPR system, but we need to have stronger there. We need a very strong technology to handle all of that data which will be poured in, and also what is the authenticity of that data which is being fed. I think that's the larger question that needs to be addressed. And who will verify that that data which is being fed is authentic or not? Whose responsibility it is it right now? I think it is limited only to declarations. So I think somewhere we need to bring in some check there, where the data which is being fed into the system has a big checking point there, and it should again not be individual dependent, it should be system dependent. I don't have too much inputs beyond this. I think ma'am, when she'll come for a session, she can reflect on it and would be able to answer in a better way. But as far as the grassroots worker I am concerned, I think the CPCB portal needs to be better functioning, because I all the time, all the while, I'll keep hearing कि ये system में error आ रहा है, वो आ रहा है, we can't upload. And also the data which is being fed has to be verified in a proper manner.
Thank you, ma'am.
Since I'm going to ask some questions for our speakers that they can reflect on further, but let us first take your questions.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, sir. Good morning, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your experience and perspective with us. I have a question for both of you. So, my question to sir is that, so from your experience in CSR and working there, what do you see as the biggest gap when company CSR commitments uh, convert to ground impact on Indian cities, especially when these works, these initiatives are aligning hugely with government and communities on the ground level? Like, what do you see the biggest gap there?
Well, I think the moment we start looking at it as a gap, uh, it that's why I was taking a pause in terms of how do I really put it. But let me put it the other way around, more than a gap where the contribution happens. And I'm just going back to what I said. Probably I'm repeating a bit of it. But I take this example that traffic congestion was one part that we talk about. And still in India, we don't have the congestion tax. Whereas when you look at taking the example of Bangalore, any city for that matter, you have the pockets or other the identified areas which are your tech parks and others, where there is essentially a concentration of the traffic during the peak hours. There where there used to be lot of company vehicles flying on those routes in those peak hours, which essentially meant that for other users of the road, there was a higher cost that they had to pay. And it's not just about my fuel efficiency going down, my time getting wasted, as well as the other health and other related impacts coming in. A distance which I could cover in 10 minutes or 15 minutes in off-peak hours would take probably 45 minutes to 1 hour, and my fuel efficiency goes down. And when this was brought into all these big names, we did this kind of work with the big names in Bangalore. but which came in as are they considering this in their P&L statement, their profit and loss statement? If this becomes a congestion tax for them, how much would it hit them? So coming back to this, how did it lead them considering this as part of CSR and addressing their own, because they were also suffering out of this. That's where these big names, these big IT companies, they started now using or more contributing towards the public transport. Whether the same Bangalore metro rail being sponsored or invested by the companies, because how much ever they invested onto the flyovers and onto the other things, it did not really solve. Metro mass transit transportation is something which is there, or even using and hiring the public transport buses for this. So that's where their CSR or their spend, when it hit them, how will it impact their own bottom line if this converts into a congestion tax for them or carbon tax or in any form of a penalization, a penalty for them, is something uh, this comes in. So the gap, if you may ask me, so that gap is currently, as was being mentioned, uh, that this is not being seen as a future risk to the bottom line of the company.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, I am also making a shift from healthcare to urban management and governance. So my question stems from there, that when entering a field beyond your original expertise, such as yours, what do you advise to bring from the past and what to unlearn to create a better meaningful impact, and how to navigate the new spaces?
So I think a very relevant question, very close to my heart. I would say I just jumped into this space. Please sit down. So I jumped into this space without actually realizing what it entailed. So I think first, my from my own experience, I would say first thing first, you should prepare yourself. You should do your homework. It could sprout out of passion, but passion alone cannot make it sustainable. You need resources, you need manpower, you need a great team. Yes, and as far as unlearning is concerned, probably I never faced the challenge of unlearning because I started from the scratch and I took myself as a nursery student when I entered into the waste management space. And honestly, the maximum that I have learned in this space is from the garbage collectors. Maximum. Let us admit and let us not hesitate to learn from people who can give you the maximum knowledge. And it is not, you will, most of the stuff here in waste management, we say, the other day only somebody was telling me it is a degree. I said, I am sorry, I don't have as such a degree in waste management. It's all. And I said, who is handling the waste in India? 90% of waste in India is still being handled by the informal garbage collectors. So they know it the best. Over and above that, I will go on and say that, when you jump into something, of course, you need to also define whether you will be working in an individual capacity in that space, or would you want that to, further go on to building an organization. They're two very, very different, ways of working. I jumped into it. I realized that, this is my calling. I really wanted to do it. Thought that, let me go on to an NGO sector. I'll get some support, but then the CSR compliances would know how tough they are. I wasn't prepared at all. I did not have any financial planning done before I enter. I did not have a team to support. I've built right from the scratch. But every odd day when and then you'll face roadblocks, and because at that age, if a youngster just 12th pass wishes to understand and doesn't need to take a switch but decides from day one, as compared to that situation, your situation will be tougher, because I'm right now working in the same space as 25-30-year-old startups are, and I cannot match up to them. So have them as a part of your team or become a part of their team. So team is something I would emphasize on. You cannot alone do anything. Collaboration and partnerships, SDG 17 is my most favorite SDG goal. So that is, and trust me, uh, uh, when you have the right set of people, and now as one of the speakers just said, that AI is something, hadn't it been for AI, I would have shut down my organization 3 years back. I'm working with that support. But yes, as I said, be prepared, have the team ready, think as if you're starting from the scratch. You'll have to leave your ego home. Yeah, not your self respect, but that ego, that, oh, I'm a doctor, so how can I? So that's something. And once you do that, I think it's 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 a beautiful journey. Do not expect overnight results. Do not. It's been 10 years for me. It could be now 1 year or 2 year for people like you, but give it its due time. Don't think and don't get disheartened. Have your niche, have your area. When you go back home tired, disappointed, frustrated, upset, there should be somebody or something that you can go back to, and that can give you a little distraction away from this, a little motivation, a little hope, a little comfort, and a little happiness. That is something very, very important. Um, if consider today's situation, you can still say not. But trust me, over 10 years, I've built ROI from the same waste. Now, it is how you do the calculation at, some point in time. I can hold a separate session on individual of my projects, how I made them sustainable and how I started earning revenue out of it. I'm not an MBA or a development student, but I have common sense. I do have common sense, and it requires application of mind more than qualification. So, yes, if you are able to sustain, and let me talk about project wise thing. I will not talk about waste as a whole. You pick up something, you build a project around it, you build a strategy, you jump into it, and you keep learning, evolving without expecting faster results, quicker results, and without giving up. Trust me, you will reach that point where you will get an ROI. The very fact that without any external sources and resources and external funding, I have sustained and grown over the last 5 years in organization sector also is a testament that there are ROIs, but collaboration, partnerships, because normally what happens is, oh, that's another NGO, it'll compete with me, why should I go and talk to them, why should I share the idea. I think that was something which I did differently, that I was very open to idea sharing with each and every one, because no matter what idea or what project you build, implementation is a different game altogether. So take different perspectives, research and keep researching your own project regularly, consistently, persistently, without giving up. I think there is no doubt you'll be able to build on an ROI model out of the projects. And one last thing I'd like to add here is that the government now and the government policies now which are coming up are hugely supportive. They've defined user fee, they've defined bulk waste generator. They are also giving you teeth to kind of enable the polluter pay. So that is also another thing, user fee structure that can also help initially support. Eventually, it will become a sustainable and a profitable, project.
To ma'am point, I'm sure you know this, but the well centers that they call where the recycling is done for compost, I mean for organic waste, and the segregation is done, then people never see segregated before, and where systems were not developed sufficiently that even when household level segregation happened, finally when they put it into the garbage truck, the people who were collecting were not educated enough or careful enough to put it in separate bins. So therefore you have to do segregation. Odisha has 3 cities where they make profits from waste collection and composting and recycling. 3 cities, Sambalpur and the other two, I think Bhadrak, if I remember correctly. Angul, okay. Rinkanal and Angul, something like that. But Sambalpur is the star in this respect. So yes, there is a ROI that you can achieve, uh, provided you get the system right. And I am completely with ma'am on this, that ultimately we have to think in systems, not isolated uh, initiatives or projects. We have to understand how to put together a system that holds, and the system is sustainable. And like Mr. Suratia also said, that it is owned and who owns it, who operates it, who actually maintains it, so that it remains sustainable. So that what you said about your projects, I think that's it.
One more thing, sir. I have an example to quote. Waste, can it have an ROI? If it didn't have an ROI, age old, centuries old, kabadiwalas, what is it? The biggest ROI that we see in the waste sector is the kabadiwala system. So it certainly has, and you have a great career in sustainability and waste management. Let me share with all of you there. It is here to stay. It will never go. Like a halwai will never go, and so will the kabadiwala and the waste will not go.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Prerna Bharti and I'm from first year MBA UMG batch. Ma'am, behavior change is often the missing link in urban sustainability. From your experience, what approaches have actually worked in changing people's everyday waste management behavior, and how can those approaches be scaled across an entire city?
Sure. Again, I'll start by saying that's the key, and that is the fundamental, foundation of the waste management, and not just waste management. You talk about transport, you talk about traffic, you talk about anything. I think behavior is the key to any kind of system which is dependent on human actions. Correct? So, firstly, I would say be prepared. As I always say, don't expect easy results. As far as CSR is concerned, the behavior chain does not have to end on 31st March. That's my request to the CSR partners here, that let us not have 31st March as the date when behavior change also you expected to complete. It takes years to change. And trust me when I say, I mean, of course, how I got this feedback was when some of the videos became viral and the comments started coming in. I was very prompt on replying to the comments, and I realized 10 million views and almost kind of close to 10,000 comments, and people are so passionate, they are so want to do it, they don't have the direction. So give them the solutions. First of all, give them the solution. They're not unwilling. Why they are stuck is something you need to understand well. You give it adequate time. For example, my husband, one odd day, a couple of years back, he walks into, in an afternoon, he walks in with 3, 4 plastic bags. I said, see, look at my project. I was like, oh my God, it's not happening in my home. Yeah. And then, he was all sweaty in the summer, and I said, okay, keep it here and all. And then uh, have food and all. I said, you brought in plastic bags, you have 3, 4 cloth bags, jute bags. So he said, Ruby, the car I had parked there, and suddenly I just forgot, and I was not carrying one, and it was quite a task to go back and get it. I said, okay, fine, no problem, understandable. And it's something which has developed with convenience over decades. It's not an old thing which has happened. So it will take time. I said, okay, fine. Now let's do something. I'll come with you. I'll drive. We'll go back and return the plastic bags. That day, he never forgets to carry a cloth bag from his car. Not
as a disincentive, but as a reminder. You have to bring in your own, small initiatives. Stick the reminders on your fridge with a magnet, very small things, right? That's one thing. Also, a right balance of incentive and disincentive really makes a lot of difference. I've just given an example of domestic helps. I very strongly believe that disincentive should not go to the extent of penalization. Behavior change happens only when it is accepted from here, from your heart. So work towards building systems that can sustain smallest of efforts. I am segregating, but the garbage collector will pick it up and throw it in the same mixed bin. What is the use? So I give up. Exactly. So these are the small gaps that you need to understand. Have consultations with the relevant stakeholders. Bring all the stakeholders, whether it is government, whether it is the CSR sector, whether it is the garbage collector, recycler, communities, schools, educational, spiritual, and organizations. Another strategy which we adopted was that satsang. Yeah. So we reached out as a brand ambassador for corporation. I told them, I said, let's have a meeting with the spiritual organizations. If I preach something, it is not going to have a meaning. But let's involve people who are influencer. Now you have social media influencers coming in. So all the relevant stakeholders need to be brought together. Don't give up. Persistency, consistency, agility are some things which you will have to adopt in behavior change, but give it time and simple solutions.
Great. Who was up first? Yeah.
Good afternoon, all. I am Mukesh Sahu, a second year student of MBA Urban Management and Governance. Thank you, Anand sir and Ruby ma'am, for your valuable insights. And my question to Anand sir that as Indian cities are rapidly urbanized, how do you see ESG moving beyond the corporate reporting and actually influencing the urban infrastructures and municipal decision making?
Well, it's a broad question. I will put it in the context of the operation. So what was being mentioned in one of the conversations was also about the business continuity or resilience that we are talking about. Coming to the point that businesses are here to generate revenue and make profit. Their own sustainability is at stake when the external environment gets impacted. That's what we discussed. So when it comes to this ESG and risk assessment, what has now really emerged, and I'm sure you must have also seen that both regulations, stakeholders like financial institutions, and of course the businesses by themselves, focusing on one key area is the climate risk. And that's what is driving a lot of their now the board's attention. I'm talking purely from the business perspective onto whether the infrastructure is climate resilient or not. I would also slightly get into associated area. So I do also work in various mergers and acquisitions or the transactions, what we call it. I also work in IPO, helping companies in their readiness for IPO. Particularly, going back to the gig economy or so, with the Amazons and the Flipkarts of the world, they are all basically operating out of their key infrastructure is their warehouses. And these are the areas which are most at risk when it comes to climate risk. So a whole focus from the businesses or corporates is going into the resilience of the infrastructure that is required for their business, and that's where this ESG is getting linked. ESG to environment, social. This is on the side. On the social side, as we just discussed, in terms of the human element, the workforce which is exposed to whether it is climate issues or any kind of human rights related issues. So that's where this linkage is coming in. Thank you.
Somebody at the back had a question. Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Somebody at the back next has a question.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Vani Kadmawala, first year MBA UMG student. Firstly, I would really like to thank you for giving us a fresh perspective in topics that are here. We see it every day, but still don't think about it. And my question is to Mr. Anand. So, you spoke about the correlation between climatic changes and finances. So, I want to understand from your perspective what is the scope of integrated financial reporting, six capitals, or sustainable reporting in India? We know about these topics, but I don't see a lot of Indian organizations and companies using this and integrating these initiatives. So, according to you, how much it is used and what is the future of it?
Just extend from what I just mentioned. So I was talking about, mergers. Please be seated. So I was just talking about mergers and acquisitions or the IPOs where companies are now coming up. The value creation part, as we are, in integrated reporting, it comes in the six capitals: the resource, natural resource, the human capital. Let's talk about these two primarily. These are the lead to these same issues that we are looking at. When the company is planning to come out or going to come out with the IPO, the basic disclosures that they need to make to their potential investors are what are the risk factors that their potential investors would have. And what comes out is again here in terms of what is the vulnerability of their operations to this climate risk or the workforce. If you go back, I would suggest you to go back during your coursework, look at some of these the draft rate hearing documents, what is DRHPs. I'm sure again as part of India, I'm just using some of those references of these platform companies. You will find a clear reference to these risks in the risk factors. So the integrated reporting starts right, when they go for public offering, and of course going further into the regular disclosures that they need to do. Similarly, mergers and acquisitions, again, where the private equities or others are coming in, they are also looking at this particular aspect of apart from the financial risk, where these non-financial risks are how the companies are identifying, addressing, and disclosing about it. So integrated reporting, in fact, has now moved on. Again, I'll not get too much into details, but now if you see, uh, it might have been part of your course curriculum. There is something called as the IFRS has come out with the ISSB standards. Here again, the integrated reporting on six capitals has now been into the formal financial regulation standards. They have now made it mandatory for companies to report on these six capitals. So it is actually getting systems. The companies are now, in fact, have been, it has become, I would say, if I may dare to say so rather, that this is kind of becoming a thing of past because it has become more now for most of the large corporations. They are already onto the integrated reporting journey, and this impacts is what they are essentially required to disclose about. That determines their valuation, that determines their and in fact, ma'am, when you were just mentioning about, I'm just probably taking a quick reference to that as well. The question was, where is the ROI? In fact, you will see now quite a few startups in this space, waste management, who are also now getting a funding or investment from the private equities and others. So you just think of it that they are basically looking at again. We did work on some of them where they are looking at the whole model that you are talking about, whether you have the recycling facilities themselves are sustainable or not. Because we would also see the challenge which comes in, and we have observed it as part of those, that those facilities essentially you don't get them tech parks. They are not located in any tech park, but they are in open environment. Or probably the least preferred space is what is allocated to them. So they are more vulnerable to the risk and the liability arising out of it. The question is also about the liabilities. So That's one part, and another example on that same. I'm probably taking that. One of my mining company, Karnataka is known for the iron ore mining, a very large group from there. You must also heard stories about mining barons having golden taps in their home. Uh, but one of those companies actually, uh, all that they told us our support was in terms of establishing a recycling smelter, the e-waste. The moment that we consider what we consider as waste, what we get 2,000 rupees or 3,000 rupees, 30 or 3 or you need to exchange it. In fact, the entire motherboard has value more than 10 times of that. And that's what they were looking at it as extraction on a business model, a clear ROI that they see. Thank you.
I think we take the last question from, yeah.
Good afternoon, sir and ma'am. My name is Chinmay Das. I am a second year student of MBA in Urban Management and Governance. Thank you so much for your valuable insights. My question to you is, Anand sir, that as ESG moves from being a compliance requirement to a strategic business priority, what according to you is the biggest challenge that organization face today in turning their sustainability commitments into measurable actions?
Well, I think we have the industry you specialist coming in. I would rather reserve that question to him. But yes, few things just quickly is one common factor is most of these commitments are very long term. As Madam was mentioning about in general about your switch over and other areas here in the corporate life. And in India's case, as a national this thing, we're talking about 2070 net zero. Most companies are now taking this 2050, etc. You don't really what they while they invest, you need to invest now, and you need to stay put invested in that. Where the organizations see challenge of continuity of their efforts, where they one of the major challenges that they're saying because results won't be known. Neither they are entirely driven by your organization's own efforts. It's the entire ecosystem which comes in. Net zero, you as much as you might do it, but then the net result that you are looking at is dependent on what people, the entire stakeholders do as well. So their major challenge, what we see from the company's perspective, a lot of them are doing, of course, their own needs, but they are dependent on, as I said, the external factors as well.
Thank you, sir.
I think we've had questions after that. I think I've been paid of time. So
I'm very sorry for that. I'm Aditi Parikh, a second year student of MBA in Urban Management and Governance. The panel discussed about working in silos and building these systems. So, as students, we often begin using strategic frameworks or marketing and governance frameworks for our assignments. But as we move to becoming active contributors in businesses and in cities, where do you see the greatest opportunity or the starting point for us as contributors so that we can build robust systems and create some kind of shared value? It's for the panel.
Well, again, from a student life to getting into a profession, and profession is not just a corporate job, but also like she has been doing, or rather switching from a corporate job back to an NGO is by itself is also another way of looking at it. So you definitely need to identify what is most appropriate with your passion. This is a general, I would say, answer it would come in. Uh, but then in terms of, uh, you know, in specifically looking into the organization setup, where you are going to be working in. Because typically, as you get in at a certain role, certain area, but then you need to identify and make efforts. Of course, it's not just like that coming in. Make efforts to identify where the organization's own concerns are. This is something which comes out. That's where you would find the opportunity for you to really contribute. And these factors, as I said, the HR, we were, yesterday also we were having a conversation with one of your alumni here for HR session. The HR function gives a lot and insights into that. You are also engaged with them. You get to see about whether these, what we call as these as ESG issues are actually the organization's administrative issues. The administration HR function, if you engage with them, you will be able to get that.
So, apart from your primary role, which will be there with that organization, you're also working as a part of that ecosystem and you are impacted by that ecosystem, right? So, you can actually analyze where are the gaps in that ecosystem and how can you build a robust ecosystem, as Sir said. You act as a bridge as well, not just as an analytical person, but also try and bridge those gaps and see if small interventions without compromising on your primary role, what is that little extra? I always say that the only difference between ordinary and extraordinary is that little extra. So I think that little extra takes you a real long way. So those are the areas which you need to identify the extra points and see if you yourself can serve as a bridge to fill up the gaps.
And if I may just put that you already have an X factor in you being here. So you just need to use that. That's all.
I think these have been stored with, I think, this last conversation or last part of the ideas. It's nicely rounded off the session. So I thank our speakers for their time and insights, sort of found answers to some of the questions in your head, even if you may not have asked them. But I keep to what Saru said about more and more teeth to some policies and regulations and many programs. I actually ask often that why is it that many focuses on individual change or individual, let's whether it's a congestion tax or not for the corporates. One question I asked when she bought a packet of chips which was in plastic, and they said, "Yeah, ये क्यों खरीदते हो? There are open वो एक सौराष्ट्र मिक्सचर वाला है उसमें से chips लेते हैं." And she said, "You put the control on me. Picture of this packet, government. Say don't use plastic. Vendor that vegetable, that's all she can afford. So who's manufacturing? Control. The whole point is the ecosystemic aspect. Ecosystem extra ecosystem itself, not just with the citizens of the communities. Second is advocacy. We talked about the understanding that is necessary and the advocacy that is necessary to actually move this forward. And there's no funding for that. So that's what has to come from us, has to come from you guys. That's the little push extra, the X factor. With that, I think we end this session. And thank you all again. And we'll meet with the other speakers now.
I would. Huh?
I would like to request Dr. Kajri Misra to present the memento to Mr. Anand Kulkarni and Ruby Makheja. I would also like to request Professor Nalin Ranjan to please come on the dais and present the memento to Dr. Kajri Misra. I request Nalin sir to please give the memento to Dr. Yeah, yeah. I would like to thank Mr. Anand Kulkarni and Dr. Ruby Makheja, ma'am, for sparing your time and sharing your knowledge and experience with us. The session was truly enriching. I would also like to thank Dr. Kajri Misra, ma'am, for being a wonderful moderator for the session. We now move forward to session 2, titled Real Estate for Resilient Cities, Sustainability and Urban Futures. For this session, we are delighted to welcome Mr. Karan Gupta, Director at Anura Property Consultants. Mr. Karan Gupta is a real estate professional with experience in commercial real estate, corporate leasing, and advisory services. At Anurag, he is associated with the commercial leasing and advisory practice, working on real estate solutions that help organizations decisions around the place and commercial property requirements. His work reflects of strategic real estate planning in shaping efficient, sustainable, and future-ready urban environments. Mr. Karan Gupta to please join us on stage for his presentation.
Hi, can everyone hear me? Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Kajri Mishra ma'am, for having all of us, and for this whole session. But of course, we're also learning from everyone else. It's I always say it's not just a prescriptive system where all of us speakers are talking to you guys. We're also, I mean, in the last half an hour, I learned so much from the very interesting questions that all of you students asked as well. So kudos to all of you for that. When I was invited for this talk, I was actually a little worried because my sector is probably the worst sector when it comes to talking about sustainability. In the real estate, commercial real estate sector, we are the guys who get beaten up the most. And very interesting that the conversation revolved around ROIs. And our industry, especially the commercial real estate industry, is completely about ROIs. It's all about what is my positive at the end of the day. 31st March, what is happening, right? Uh, and not very honest, sustainable, or especially for developers and large corporates, has never been a priority as much as it doesn't sit as well in the or it doesn't used to. Things are 100%. 100% things are changing. So that's where I come from. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a trained architect. Worked architecture industry for 3 to 4 years, and then went to get a master's in real estate. And after that, I've been working in the real estate industry for the last 10 years or so. So I think a cumulative experience of around 15 years in essentially in the construction and real estate domain. So what I basically do is basically there are three things that I essentially work with. The first is tenant representation. The second is location strategy. And the third is that we advise a lot of GCCs on what their market entry strategy into India should be. I think most of you know what GCC is. The full form of GCC is a Global Capability Center. It's essentially what this earlier in India used to be. So earlier we used to have, let's say, customer support point. When somebody from England would call customer support, they'll be in India on the line, talking to the customer in England. That has changed into Indians now. We've got a great talent industry, so that's changed into us now having talent in the administration, legal, R&D, AI, all of those domains. So all of those domains are now being outsourced into India. That is the reason why you see a lot of these, a lot of these large offices developing all over the country. I mean, all of the Patna district in Bhubaneswar as well. So that's also one emerging IT district in the country. Of course, very very basic as compared to other cities, but it's getting there. So I am uh, to slides about the industry and real estate. I think because I think we've discussed resilient cities and all of that quite a bit. What I am going with is this one slide that just to put it uh, in, because we've been talking about city as well. So this presentation basically focuses on the office real estate. So not residential, not warehousing, essentially on office real estate. The kind of buildings that a Google or a Microsoft or essentially take. So if you first if you look at that first score, you see that Delhi and Bangalore cumulatively they ranked 8 and 15 in terms of in real estate in these cities across the APAC. So these cities rank high in terms of the money that's coming into the city. On the flip side, these cities rank the worst in livability. So you have money going up in the city, and you've got the livability basically going down. And I always feel some at some point in time these lines have to meet. You can't I city where the city livability index is one. That is what in real estate is all about. Whereas the otherwise cities at some point of time will implode onto themselves. So what is the uh, sorry. From the screen. Now, this essentially, if you look at this, if you look at the first square, totally great. Hello, can you? The total grade stock in this country is around 873 million square foot. I'll put that into perspective. The total grade stock in Bhubaneswar is probably not even 1 million square foot. So that is 870 Bhubaneswars. So that is a kind of that is the amount of real estate that is there in the country. Bangalore itself is burning 30% of this at Bangalore itself of this at a 50 square feet of space. Of course, it's basically employment for black people. Uh, and a lot only 30% of this is vacant. So vacant offices essentially is that a building, but it's not being leased out, so it's not operational. Which is also a very unsustainable system in itself. And 75 square feet is going to 2026 alone. So 75 million square feet is what new offices will come in into 2026. And this is slated to be increased by 2035 and 40. Sorry, also one interesting data, 873 million square feet is a huge amount. But to put that in perspective, itself, converted itself is 750 million square feet. So India is at this point, just one city is 85% of the total real estate stock that you have in India. So essentially, what I'm saying is that those packs in the supply that we have expecting another 500 to be added in the next 10 years. So the question is to that be sustainable or right? Would that be a way to build it? You would have heard of you would all of you lead Grihab. So that is something that's very important in the industry, and it is and that is the question or the challenge in front of students like you to ensure that all the stock that we are building in the next 20 to 30 years is the city. Because at this point of time, the real estate stock does a lot of city. In fact, that is something that I would also state as an educator, you take a sustainable way. You know what is what sustainability are you talking? But basically, developers are building floodplains, the cutting of forests and building building commercial towers, residential towers. So as you talked about lakes, a lot of a lot of the edge of the lake that is things. A lot of structure, uh, structure is what the city has. So a lot of right on the coast, which is a water drainage slope area, which is very easy to flooding, right? So, but unfortunately, it that is just how it is. So, I'm state the resource of the world. Uh, in the expansion of the right? That's the question in front of us. So, so I started in the real estate industry, particularly in 2015. And you know, because we essentially are telling reps. So we speak to the occupier, we speak to the developer, and we match the requirements. And that's a lot of these conversations on sustainability, ESG, new buildings, and change those conversations, shift from what I saw in 2015 as to what we're seeing in 2026. And that's the most encouraging part. 2011, discussing about the square feet, the floor plates have to be efficient, after very little as in the floor. System so to speak. It was something uh, that is so if a sustainability system or let's say go or need platinum rated plastic. But a lot of occupants will pay extra money for that. And that is where the ROI comes into discussion as well. What is that sustainability, especially on metrics of water, metrics of green power, where you source your power, waste management systems on the public level as well. All of those parameters are checking the baseline. And I think that is something that is very important in the industry that a lot of these, especially MNCs, occupiers who are coming outside countries, especially from the US and from the UK, they are looking at this extremely interesting, extremely important in a more important sense. So another very quick stat. Under the total new stock, and when I say new stock, essentially new stock was under 8 square feet in 2011. And this is resulting in 574 million square feet, which is all 66% of all the real estate in the country right now. So that will be between let's say around 80 to 85% of all that are being built are LEED rated. So the issue with LEED a little later. So of course, you know, corporates have climate targets. Everyone has a net zero target by 2030, by 2050. GHG emissions need to be reduced, cut in half, or actually a lot of occupiers are actually going for zero GHG emissions as well. which I think some other speakers would probably throw some more light on. The tenure changed. People look at office, people from talent. So the quality of office has changed. Sorry. Also, saw a huge change post-COVID. Before, offices were just a space where people came into work, and that was not something that was something that was critically examined. After COVID, offices became still more of something more of an enabler of work rather than just to stuff people. So they were flight to quality. So a lot of quality buildings became all, especially you can look at markets like Gurgaon, just vacant, and that's a huge uh, sustainability. Also, it's a huge blow to the system because you have all this stock which is still guzzling some kinds of power. Uh, still creating talent, work as such. And we also started pricing this in. So as you said, ESG, sustainability, all these affect the valuations of buildings. So at 2011, that was not as much. Now it's very relevant in the system. Private limited equity is that is something that we asked. If you were using, for instance, I was talking to Alok so just some time back, and that's what he said. He was working with which is one of the partners. So he said the same thing. ESG, as soon as he started using phone, they started to talk to ESG guy because any private equity which is into real estate will ask for LEED certification, will ask you for what are you doing on the environmental front. So essentially, occupier brief is rewritten. What has massively changed in what we were doing in 2026 and still change further. So as I said, it's crossed from a differentiator to an entry ticket. A building that is green but is LEED certified is something that differentiates itself. It is the baseline entry ticket in street ecosystem. A developer who does and so we talk about ROIs in and in sustainability area. I think this is where real estate has the biggest opportunity. Statistically, there are 80 to 20% upside on those which are more sustainable. So occupiers are that are sustainable building. This is very important because this will only increase sustainability. How the building is becomes more imperative. 80% of buildings expect certified buildings. So get leased, right? So in fact, I was talking, this was transaction in Nokia. So we helped them acquire 5,000 square feet. So 500 square feet in Bangalore. This was a factory in Bangalore. So and we did the transaction with the embassy group. I don't know how many of you know about the embassy office parks group, right? Now they will REIT, invested in personal trust as well. So can I ask a very simple question? So, so and sector, because we said zero growth. Uh, so sort of about segregation. We started actually looking at how do systems actually this. So as I have because they come from outside, so all from all British telecom, all these companies, they, again, they make sustainability a huge requirement, something which I would still see that that's a huge differentiator between the Indian companies are looking at real estate and the foreign companies are looking at real estate. So you work with uh, places of the world, the while you have very strong interest internationally, the mandates, its sustainability are still a little weak. I think they still get away with something with a lot as compared to countries which come from outside. So, right? We talk, cities resilient. I don't think any city in India is resilient. I feel that cities are more resilient as compared to tier one cities just because of the kind of domination that urban domination that the cities have faced. But if you see where the demand actually is going, the demand is going to Hyderabad and it's going to Pune. That's where the largest offices are opening. 1,000, 300,000, half a million square feet. Half a million square feet is used. Square feet is 50,000. And that's probably around 20,000 cars. That's something that if you come to that is 20,000 cars trying to get into the office every day. This is very easy. Right? It's public transportation is very systems. Transactions. Um, real estate or leasing is happening in these so-called less resilient cities. So actually, that's another question for you guys. That. Then that is the data center, AI, and a lot of people, I don't know if you, I was reading somewhere, you know, if you ask ChatGPT, if you ask like if you put ChatGPT, that takes up I think half a liter of water. Or it could be it's a decent amount of water. One command takes that amount of water. It just that water because of the heat that is generated. So it also becomes a real responsibility for the Microsofts of the world who are opening these data centers, schedule management, and those kind of techniques in place as to how are you actually managing that you're using. Because Visakhapatnam, there was a huge protest in Visakhapatnam that, you know, Google will provide us jobs. What are we going to do jobs? What are we going to do jobs? So that is a realistic with sustainable practices, and that is the opportunity for all of you guys. So what does the future hold? You know, so I talked about what the opportunity is and what the market is. So what is the future for all of you? What's the future for the market? So I think the first what I was thinking the first opportunity that the market really has is the retrofit opportunity. It's very sustainable, building fantastic with all the tracking water, tracking emissions, tracking tracking carbon, tracking all of that's it's really useful, right? But the biggest problem with our cities, as I said, is vacant stock. Are the old buildings, which are as well, which are probably responsible for emissions, for brown power, for waste management, for inefficient systems. So there's a huge opportunity. There's actually a 400 square feet opportunity to actually retrofit those buildings. And of course, look, it's not as easy as I said. It's an opportunity. Who's going to pay for it? Developers are so much happier to actually let the old building go. We'll let it be because the commitment are so much are so much higher, and the government also incentivizes because the taxes that the government can generate on the profit. So on administrative government level as well as the corporate level as well. So there are four transitions that are currently happening in the industry. So a lot of corporates are now going from certification to performance, and that's what I said. It's easy to get a lead or you know, a Griha rating. That's what the issue. The issue is our buildings actually performing, let's say on an basis, is my water tract, is my green power tract, what is the building performance? And a lot of corporates especially like the Googles, the Nokias, they're tracking data. And a lot of companies, a lot of smaller firms are also, in fact, a lot of developers are putting those systems in place. Certification, you get a lead certification, you get a subsidy from the government, and then you let the building go. The building can do whatever, you know, there's no tracking, the building basically falls into abyss, and that's how it works. But now there's no live tracking in place. As I said, from retrofit, a huge opportunity to retrofit buildings and not just building, because every new building is basically more pressure on the system. And that is a biggest problem. If you look at Indian cities they've always expanded horizontally. Where while there's a huge opportunity for retrofitting cities to stay within certain limits. So the infrastructure and you know all of those things can be easily managed. From water to water. Emissions are huge, but now a lot of occupiers are also talking about water. Chile is a prime example. We had occupier Bank of America out of one billion Chennai to because of the water crisis. So they were basically in that particular building they were tankers, and that you could assume Chennai in water, right, being on the coast, but that's really not the case. And from voluntary to price, as I said, EMC are moving to valuations. So all occupiers, all private equity developers are now valuing their buildings with ESG and with sustainability in place. Because, as I said, the rentals, the ROI is higher. So what do cities need to do? What do municipalities, what does the government need to do? And this also comes from the kind of conversations that we've had. You see states have GCC policies where they try to get companies to Odisha has one. They try to get companies to open offices in the cities so that they give tax incentives, they give subsidies on capex, they give subsidies on the employment costs that the company will incur. They also need to align the policy with delivery of sustainable practices. So if a corporate or a developer has better sustainable practices, the policy needs to incentivize the developers for that as well, because that can be done to an extent that can that can be that can be done better. Uh, Infrastructure, of course, infrastructure needs to get built. There is no question about that. Retrofit. I think this presentation keeps harping about retrofitting because retrofitting is probably the best opportunities that we have right now as real estate practitioners. And lastly, very important, dispersing the demand to emerging markets. They're literally bursting at the seams. Are the If you look at the roads in Gurgaon right now, the amount of traffic in Gurgaon is already 5 times the amount of traffic that the road can actually handle. And the kind of real estate that's being developed in Gurgaon, in fact at Anwar we made a very interesting model as to the amount of cars that will go on the road per 100 square feet or per 1,000 square feet of space built. And we realize these new buildings that are coming up in Gurgaon, and there's no space. I mean, it just adds to the congestion of the cities that are the congestion that the cities are already experiencing. And that is something that we started, advising our clients. In fact, it went against our management because our management said, guys, if you say this to the client, he will transact through you because Indians, we are a brokerage firm, right? We need to make money from our leasing activity. So there's a big dichotomy here where talking about sustainability, talking about conversion actually affects our business. So all of you in the room, so essentially about this, right? This is something I was thinking about as well. Where do you, as urban management professional, as MBAs in this field, fit in? So firstly, I would say learn to measure. And of course, this is just about buildings. Learn to measure, uh, be data oriented. How is in terms of what how buildings perform. Not it's not just about certification, but do get certified early. That's also important because in your careers, certifications will help. When junior, let's say lead AP or a well rated or like a well AP IGBC rated, all of these things will really help you go get into positions where you can make better decisions. Capital is very important, not just building. Where is the capital going? See where the capital is going. Uh, you will see that that capital inflow is more into sustainable assets these days and less into standalone buildings, less into developers who are not building responsibly. That will also give you an idea of where the trend is. One happened in 2040, and this takes from a retrofitting opportunity as well. India built last 50 years, last 10 years, 15 years in terms of elements, not in terms of structure. So wherever you are, whether if you're on the developer side, if you're in the municipality, wherever your career takes you, if you're at the occupier side, always ask, okay, what is going to happen in 2040? What in 2050? Is my thinking itself resilient enough in 2050 or Australia level from? You can on the developer side, you can do this at the municipality side, you can do this in the corporate side, or of course you can do this as a working directly with climate and all of those things as well. While this is more realistic, so I just thought I'll give you a flavor of where you can fit in from a realistic point of view. So yeah, so really excited for wherever you guys land up, and thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable insights with us on how real estate can contribute to sustainable, resilient cities. We will be continuing our session post lunch. With that, we come to the conclusion of our morning session. I would now like to invite all our esteemed guests, speakers, faculty members to join us for lunch. Please take this opportunity to refresh, connect, and enjoy the meal. The lunch break will be from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. We look forward to welcoming everyone back at 2:30 p.m. for the sessions that follow. Thank you. Students, please be seated. Second years, you may leave. Please be back here by 2:30 p.m.